Okay, students, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Today we will be doing the lab 2. The lab 2 will be covering for loops and functions, structures, and all of that, and also conditional statements. Right. So, can anyone explain what a loop is? Basic English, not. You don't have to explain in terms of.
Process of repeating something.
Now that way of, so we can represent loops in multiple ways, and one of them is called a for loop. Okay. In programming, it's the most common loop that we use. And you write a for loop like this. You type in for within and then you have to have the brackets and curly brackets. Okay. Within the curly brackets, you will have your piece of code that you want to repeat. And for the number of times you want to repeat for all of those information will be inside this normal brackets. Okay. So first we will create a variable called I. And we'll assign a value called 0. Now, when we'll start the for loop with I equals 0. So even if we change it above, it will. So like, for example, even if this is 5 here, by the point the for loop runs, I will always change to 0. Okay. This part is actually not necessary. You can have it like this here if you want. And it would be the same thing, but then you can't use this, right? Because you can't declare two variables with the same name, right? Yes, this will give an error. So one for the for loop not being complete, and also once the for loop is complete, it will give an error for having this variable declared again, right? I'll use this method for now. Here, so usually for loop, you have to give for, then initialization, semicolon, a condition, and the iteration. You will see what I mean. So here, this is my initialization. This is the condition. This is the iteration. So what does this piece of code mean? Basically, this piece of code means it will run whatever is within these curly brackets. Okay. Whatever is within these curly brackets will run until this condition is false. Understood? Is that clear? Does anyone want me to explain again? It's okay if you can, like, if you can even chat, send it in chat, but please respond. I'm assuming that everyone understood. So if I run this, I'll get something like this. Now it's printed hello world, but what's the problem with this? It's printing all together, right? What do you think the issue is? Printf prints a line, but it doesn't like go to the next line, right? To make printf go to the next line, you can give /n. And now when you run, you have 5 lines. Now, can anyone explain why there's 5 lines here? So here the for loop started with I equals 0. Then we are we are checking if I is less than 5. Is I less than 5? Currently, what's I? Currently, I is, explain. Students, give me answers.
Initially, I is 0.
Initially, I is 0, right? So since I is 0, it's less than 5. So that means this condition is true. Because of that, hello world runs once. This one gets output, right? Then we go here. I plus plus. I plus plus means we add increment I by 1, right? Which means I is now equal to 1, right? So is I less than 5 now? Still yes, it's 1. So it will print it again. Then it will go back to I plus plus. Now I is 2. The condition is true, so it will print again. And until this is equals to 4, this will keep on printing. So until I equals 4. Why is that? Because the condition we have given is I is less than 5. Understood? Because once I equals 5, this won't print anymore. Because why won't it print anymore? 5 is not less than 5. 5 is equal to 5. So if we had less than or equals, then it would print 5. The sixth one also. There would be another line. Do you see this? Right. Is there anyone who has any questions? Give me a moment. I'll pick up with the attendance marking. You won't be checking it right now. Okay. Now, can you use this? And also, so in you've used sorry, you know how to output a variable, the variable's value by now, right? So you output it by, for example, equals percentage P. Then this will give you, show you the value of I, right? It will give you an output. No students, it's not particular to one center, it's for all students. Okay, so again, if I put here equals less than or equals 5, then it will also print 5, right? Okay. So now give me a, so open up your uh, uh, open up Programmist online C compiler on your computers and give me code, send it in chat uh, that allows me to print these numbers in the opposite order. So here I went from 0 to 4, right? I want you to print it from 4 to 0. Quickly give me some examples. You don't need to code everything. Just send me the for loop. Yes, very good. So one student has sent the code. So this is the code that they have sent. See, prints from, but it prints from 5 to 1, right? Now then, students, this is how you go in reverse. You can use I minus minus. So like you used I plus plus to increment by 1, I minus minus decrements by 1. Okay. So you can set a higher value and decrement it until it reaches 0 or the desired outcome. Okay. Now, students, give me uh, mm, give me a code. Yes, good, very good. Students, give me a code that accepts the user's 10 digits from the user. So use scanf inside a for loop to accept 10 integer values. Wait, I didn't teach you arrays. Okay. Sorry. My bad. So far we have talked about uh, conventional normal variables, right? As in integers, chars, and floats. Now we'll be talking about arrays. An array is basically a collection of those variables. So now you can imagine if I created a variable called I, it would basically look like this, right? Okay. So if I created I, this would basically mean in coding, this would be shown as in I, right? So now let's assume I created something called I. Then this would be in the memory space, it would be creating something like this. Okay. So it will create a variable called I with a blank space. Now, if I give I equals to 5, that means what will happen? It will set the value inside this box to 5, right? The memory space will contain the value 5. So now when we access this, we will get this value. Okay. Now arrays are a bit different from that. To write an array, the code is, so previously we wrote in, so for example, we'll give A for this, give int A, and then semicolon. But for arrays, we also have to give a size. So the size of the array. What does this mean? We give square brackets and 5. Now, what do you think this code does? This code will basically, now you remember here, it created a variable called I and just one box. When I give int A and then within square braces, I give 5, it will create basically a box with 5 spots. Understood? Is there anything that you don't understand? Is there anything you don't understand in this? Yes, yes, Sanjana, you can use code blocks. That's fine. All you have to do is make sure that you can do the work alongside me. Right. So now I'm assuming that you understood up to this point. This will create basically a blank space with 5 empty spaces, right? And now to assign values to this. Now, previously, all we had to do is I equals 5, right? When we gave I equals 5, this value will change to 5. Now, Since this has 5 spaces, what do you think we should do to change this value? So in a array, we have something called indexes, because we can't directly change the array, as in we can't give a equals 5, because then the program wouldn't know where to put the data. We have something called an index, and an index is like sort of your home address. We know where you live if you give us your home address, right? So here, in an array, the index always starts with 0. Okay, so in this scenario, this will be 0, 1, should be 1. This will be 2. This will be 3. And this will be 4. Okay. So the last cell will always have the size of it, the size of the array minus 1, because it starts from 0. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, to assign a value to these spaces, or basically to assign a value to this array, what we do is we specify the index. So we give a, then we give, for example, let's say I want to set a value to this 0th index. Then I give 0 equals to 5. Okay. Now, if I give this, the value here will change to 5, right? I can again give this as a 0 equals to 5. This is a 9, right? Then this value will change to 9. Now here, if I give right, here if I give instead of a equal, so equals to, now if I give also at here a is a 4 equals to 28. Now this value will change to 28, right? Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now use this principle and okay, hold on. Don't look at the lab sheet's first example. I mean the question. It's okay for now. Don't look at the question because it's very confusing. Okay, but please try to do this on your own without looking at the lab sheet. Now accept 10 inputs. from user. Please give me the code for this if you can. Accept 10 inputs from the user and output it in reverse order. My computer is problem. So, Madhavala, right? You have sent me an answer. This answer is actually an answer copied from the tab sheet, right? Try to do it on your own because I can see the lab sheet. You don't have to send it to. Also, the question I have asked is not on the lab sheet. We have changed it a little. No. I asked you not to look at it and try to do it on your own. Yeah, we won't be checking attendance right now. So students, some of you have sent me answers. Now, some of these are actually just printing from either from 10 to 0 and stuff like that. But that is not what I asked for. Please, when you get the question papers and stuff like that, right? Please read the question thoroughly. Okay. Here I have said accept 10 inputs. By accept, I'm asking you to have a scanf. Good. One student has done, but you're outputting it in the same order. Very good, but you're outputting in the same order. So, what have I asked you? Accept 10 inputs, okay, from the user, as in it should be a user input, right? And output it in reverse order. Understood? So whenever you get a question, please break it down into the key components. Understood? Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes more. I'll give you a small hint. You have to combine. You can't do it with just for loops. Now, previously the outputs could be done with just for loops. This one can't be done with just for loops. So as a hint, I'll give you, you have to use arrays. Use these and these. So use the for loop with the arrays. Okay. Yours is partially correct, Dharmaratna. So I'll, I'll have to erase this. Is that okay? If you want, you can take a screenshot right now. Because this has like a basic structure of for loops and of arrays. So you can use this as a shortcut, short note if you want. Are you all done screenshotting? Because I have to move away from this. Yes? Okay, it's enough time. Now, students. Yes, Sanjana Bandar, you have gotten the correct output. Since he has sent the code, I will show you what it should look like. First, I'll show you Dharmaratna, your code. Since you have not repeated it inside a for loop, so there should be two for loops there. One to accept the values and one to what? One to output the values. Okay. So, and also if it's int main, always have return 0. So you can create it. Good. Okay. So now what has he done? It's kind of confusing, I know. But what is going on here? Here, first we'll create a variable called 9. Okay. There are byte code rather than an annotation. Okay. Okay. So for now we'll go. So now at this moment we have a variable called n, which is equal to 9, right? Here we have a array called a, right? And a has 10 spaces, right? So now a has 10 spaces. And we have a variable called I, which has a value of 0. So now this loop goes from 0 to how much? Here, what's the value of n? 9, right? So it will go from 0 to 9. Now, when you're going from 0 to 9, let's say here, let's say I entered 5, it will go here. It will at the printf, you can understand. For scanf, it will get the value and set it to a at the index of I. So the array A at the index of I. What's the index of I in array A? I is currently 0, right? I is 0. So that means it's similar to slash dash A, not slash dash, but you get that, and 0. So it's like saying, get this value that I'm entering here and enter it into the 0th index, which means this will be 5, right? Then it will increment by 1, and by the point it gets here, it will say to add it to an index of 1, right? Which means here. That means this will become 8, and so on and so forth, right? You can. Is there anyone who can't understand this up to this point? Like this follow? Is there anyone who doesn't understand? Is there anyone who doesn't understand? Yeah, I'll be explaining the second follow. Don't worry. This is for now. I'll be just explaining the first follow. Can everyone understand the first follow? Up to here, how you get all of the values and add it to the array, right? So how you get the values here and add it to the array. Can you understand that part? Please respond, students. There are 89 of you here.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in the second follow, we are going in reverse order, right? So now we set the value of I equals to 9. Okay. Here we won't use N, capital N, right? We don't need N here. Actually, we can put here 9 also, but we would put in this spot, we would put N, right? We can use N here. It's the same thing. So why would we use it as a variable here in these two positions? The reason is we can change it later on, right? So we can have the users also have the users enter the number of times it will output, right? This thing will repeat. We can have the user enter how many times this will repeat. Do you understand? How would we go by doing that? We can copy this here. Use this code. Enter repetitions. And then instead of A index, we can have them set it to N. Okay. And for this size, we can give N plus 1. Right? Without giving this. So we will give this about. Right? So by doing this, we can set the value through the okay. So I can enter the number of repetitions. I can say 5, for example. Not repeating for 5. I will set the value sometime. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because it's I have set equals here and here, right? In both places I have set equals, so it will display 6 times, right? Okay. Now to explain the last part, right? This will basically sorry, my computer is a little slow. It's stuck sometimes. Okay. That was just one way to do it. Okay. Now here in this code, this will repeat for 10 times and input the values from 0th index to 9th index. So from here to here, right? Now in the second for loop, what do? We go from I equals to N. What's N? N is equal to 9, right? So what does this mean? Students, it will go from here to, it will start from here basically, right? The 9th index. This is the 9th index currently, right? So it will start from here, print this. So it will print 2. Then it will go to minus minus. It will print 3. Minus minus. It will print 5. You get the idea until it gets to the 5th index, the 0th index, which is 5, right? Anyone got any questions? Anyone who doesn't understand? Is there anyone who doesn't understand up to this point? Please answer, students.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, why does it start from 9? Why is the n is equal to 9?
Because here we have specified int n equals 9, right? And we haven't changed this anywhere, right? This has never changed. Understand?
It's all the same in everywhere, is it?
Yeah. So here,
Yeah.
if we can just change this to 9 even, or here we are using it as n because we
Okay.
have already created the variable.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Okay,
So
sir,
this
thank
will
you.
always
Yeah,
start from 9 from this and then go until it is greater than or equal to 0.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay. Now, in the example in the lab sheet, they have asked you to get the average also. So, who knows what the average is? How do you find the average? Anyone know what the average is? Sum over count, right? So, how do you think I should calculate the sum? I can create a variable called sum equals 0. Okay. And I can create another one called floor. Why do you think I used float for average? Why did I use float for average?
When it is divided, that can be a float value.
Good. So there can be decimal places, right? When it's divided. So we use float. Okay. And also, Madhavella, you're correct, huh? Your code that you sent. So to get the sum, you can do sum equals sum plus a and the index. So now where do you think I should have this code to calculate the sum? In the first for loop or the second for loop? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can have it in both for loops and it will still work. So for this scenario only, I'll just have it in the second for loop. Yes, I won't be giving it until in the middle. Okay. I will give you the attendance sheet. Not right now. Because I was once a student. I know what you all are going to do. In the middle, you will just turn off your as soon as I give the link for that, right? Okay. So now, what will this do? This will take the current value of sum. So, what's the current value of sum in the beginning? The current value of sum is
0.
0. Then add the the value of a in the 0th in the 9th index, right? For the first iteration. So that will be 2. So sum is equal to 2. Then is equal to 5 because 2 plus 3. Then 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. Then 11. You get the idea, right? So by the end of the for loop, it will have the total. Okay. Then I can have the average. Average equals What do you think? Over
M, capital M.
capital M. Why do you think I have put float here? What does this do? And no, it's not to be fancy. Technically, you don't need to put it there because there is a division. But usually, as a best practice, we always have this float. We always cast it to float, right? Casting means, so you remember now, there were different data types, right? Everyone remembers the different data types? Can someone name some data types? Yes, please don't ask about the attendance right now. Wait, I will give you the attendance. Does anyone know the data types? Can anyone name the data types? The most common ones, at least. The most common 3 data types. Send it in chat at least. Integer, char, boolean, float. Okay. Char, long. Okay. Good. 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 Now, these data types, I don't know whether you were in the lab when I was teaching lab 1. Were any of you there in the on-site labs? Because I think I told this in the on-site lab. Anyways, for those of you who weren't in the on-site lab, you can think of these data types as different shapes. So you remember I depicted the variables as boxes, right? You can think of these as having different shapes, but some have not similar shapes, but compatible shapes. What are compatible shapes? Kind of confusing, I know, but bear with. Now, let's say I have an integer. Let's say the integer is a box. Sorry, let's say the integer is a circle. Okay. Now, technically speaking, I can have this integer inside the member. It's the same size, right? But can I put the integer inside the box? Let's assume the box is the float. Can I have, so this will be the int. Will be float. So I can put an integer inside a float, but can I put a float inside an integer without losing anything? No. So what happens if I put this float inside the integer? I'll lose these edges, right? I'll lose these edges. Got it? As in, if we are talking about data values, if I put, for example, let's say 5.5 in a 5.5, which is a float in a integer, I'll get the I'll get the value called 5, right? Understood? So I'll lose the edges, right? So to avoid some of these problems and avoid like the problems caused by data types, what we do is we cast them. So this is how you cast it. We are basically saying this value will finally become a float. Understood? By just putting this here, we are saying that this average will become a float. Okay. Is there anyone who didn't understand? Yeah, floating points. Yeah. Is there anyone who understands?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, at the beginning we have mentioned float average. So
Okay.
if there we don't mention float in, what will happen?
Then, so for example, if I have here, if I have it as an integer, right, the value will change to an integer value. It won't show any decimal points, right? Then I can't have this float value. Understood? Because the output won't be a float.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want you all to do example 2 in the lab sheet. This example 2. Give it here too. For those of you who don't have the lab sheet, basically write a program that prints the following patterns. Use the for loops to generate the patterns. And an asterisk should be printed. Okay. The pattern is hold on. This is the pattern. Okay. Can everyone see this? Please do this question. Good. So enough time to write the code. This is what you need to do, right? So what does this do? The first is a normal for loop. So what does this do? This one. Because I'll explain this by this. Okay. What does this do? This runs this 10 times, right? Now doing this will run it in 10 different lines. Now that's not the only thing I want though. Okay. I want it to repeat this in a pyramid pattern, right? So what would I do if I want to get a square? Technically, the output will be a rectangle, but if you put it together properly, it will be a square because it will have 10 asterisks down, 10 asterisks to the side. Okay. Visually, it will look like a rectangle because the space is not equal to the line spaces. So for this, you give a for loop and what do you have to do? A equals to 0 and j less than 10. This will give us a square, right? Typically, this will have 10 asterisks to the side and to the side, 10 asterisks down. Now, this is not what we want, right? We don't want these parts. We have to remove these parts. So we can say, instead of asking it to repeat until j is 10, we can ask it to repeat until j is less than what? I. What would this do? This would repeat it like this. Now, why would this be the case? Why does it give this output when we have j is less than I? In the first iteration, I is equal to 0. Okay. Here it will come to 0. It's less than here. So it will repeat until it is 0, which is it will repeat one time. Okay. Then it will go to the second one. I is equal to 1. It will repeat 2 times. Do you get it? So because we are checking with I instead of a fixed value, it will repeat for the value I. So with each line, it will increase the repetitions because the index that we have given changes or I changes. It increments by 1. Okay. Anyone want to explain this? I think Jennifer and okay. Do you want me to explain this again?
Sir,
Okay. Yeah.
the second for loop, the
Yeah.
first for loop I is equal to 0. Then in the second for loop j equal to 0. So
Yeah.
0 greater than 0 means false, no? In for loops, the condition is true or false. First output will display or something like that. Because
Okay. I'll explain this again. So, hold on. There are a lot of people in the chat also. Now, We'll have I here. We'll table I is equal to 0 and J is equal to 0. Okay. Now the program starts with I and j being equal to 0. When the outer loop begins with having I0, is I less than 10? Tell me, is I less than 10? Okay, hold on, hold on. I think there's an error in the code holder. We should be running for 10 times instead of the, sorry, 9 times instead of the 10. Yeah, it's running 9 times. So what's the fault? Can anyone tell me what I did wrong?
Equal mark.
Equal mark. So why is it that the case? This won't run for the first line, right? For the first line won't run. So that's why it's given the right now it gives 10. Okay, sorry, my bad. Okay, so I'll explain this again from the beginning. We start here. I equals 0. I'm drawing with the mouse, don't talk. That's it that much. Okay, I is equal to 0. We're checking whether it's less than 10, and then so we want to increment it right now. Then we go into the for loop, right? What's there inside the for loop? J is equal to 0, and then we go to, is it less than I? Is J less than I right now? Less than or equal? Yes, it's equal, right? So we print 1. We print it once, right? Why? Because it will be 2 only once. So this will repeat only one time. Because it's equal, it will run. So right now I is equal to 0, j is equal to 0, right? So since j is equal to 0, this will run once and then print this. Okay. Then it will increment by 1. Now is it equal to I? No. I is 0. J is now 1. Right? After incrementing. Understood? So this won't print. It will print a /n, which means it will go to the next line. Okay. Now what's the value of I? I is 1 after increment, right? It will go back to the for loop and j is equal to 0. Is j smaller? Yes. So it will print once. Then J plus plus. Sorry, then after printing, it will increment by 1. Now what's the value of J? Can anyone answer? What's the value of J now? Is equal to 1. Okay. Now, is this true? This line makes it true because it is 1 is equal to 1. So it prints another value. Then the next line is false because this becomes 2. Since it's false, it goes and prints this. Prints a slash n, which means it comes here. Right? Then it will repeat. This one will repeat for 3 times because this is I equals 2. Okay. Is there anyone who doesn't understand so far? Is it hard to understand? I can explain it again. Please tell me if you understand or not. Otherwise, I can't help you. Are there any problems understanding this? The first one, basically, this for loop here, okay, determines the number of rows that we are going to print. Okay. And at the moment of it running, how many of the, it also sets the value for how many of the outputs that we want at the second for loop, right? So we are using this current value that is changing with each line. So for the first value, we want 1. For the second value, we want it twice. But for the third one, we want 3 times. You get the idea, right? So it's setting the value to get the respective output. Okay. Is there anyone who doesn't understand? Just tell me. We don't have time, students. Please respond. Do you understand? Do you want me to explain it again?
Sir, can you repeat it?
Okay. Now in the first fall. So firstly, what does this question, what do they want from this question? To get a pyramid shape, right? A triangle shape, right? Now to get this triangle shape, for the first line, you want 1 asterisk, then go to the second line. Okay, instead of having 10, I'll just have 3 to be easier to explain. Okay. We want, for the first one, we want 1 asterisk. For the second one, we want 2 asterisks. Then for the third one, we want 3 asterisks. Okay. So far, so good. So here it has to increment by 1. Do you understand? We have to increment the number of asterisks that are being output by 1. Okay. Now, aren't we doing the same thing through this? We are incrementing I by 1. Right? We're incrementing I by 1. So here, instead of in the second for loop, we can also have I is j less than or equal to 3, right? Less than 3. Then it will give us 3 lines of asterisks, right? But this is not what we want. We want it to reduce by 1. Okay. So we give it the value for the condition we give it is j less than or equal to I. Why do we give j less than or equal to I? If we gave it a fixed value, it will give us this uh, this what do you call it this output basically a square output or a rectangle. How is it? Now here if I sort of show this to you in the first iteration, okay, I will be equal to, okay, instead of having I equals 0, I'll change this. This will, I think the problem is you can't understand it because I is equal to 0. I'll change it like this. Now can you understand? So yeah, then I'll just think. This is also a possible answer. The previous code was also correct. This one is also correct. Okay. Basically, we start from 1. Okay. Then we check if it is less than 3, less than or equal to 3. Then we run the for loop. Okay. In this nested for loop, which is called a nested for loop because it's a for loop inside a for loop. In this nested for loop, we have this condition where j is less than or equal to I. Is j less than or equal to I in the first iteration? Yes, why? What's the value of I here? I is equal to 0. Right? What's the value of j? Sorry, I is equal to 1. Sorry. What's the value of j? J is equal to 1. So, we are asking is 1 equals 1. Right? Is 1 equals 1? Yes. So, it will output 1 asterisk. Okay. Then, what will it do? It will increment it by 1. Increment j by 1. Now it's going back here and asking is 1 is 2 greater than 1? No. So it will exit this for loop. Okay, because this is false, the statement is false. It will exit the for loop and go here and printf the dash n, which means it will create a new line. Okay, now we created a new line. Now we go back to the for loop and check whether, and then we increment I by 1. So when we increment I by 1, I is equal to 2. Okay. Then we can still repeat it because I is less than 3 currently. So we go to the for loop, the second nested for loop. Then here it says again j is equal to 1. Then this gets replaced with 1. Here we are checking is j less than or equal to I. Is j less than or equal to I? Yes. Why? 1 is less than 2. Right? So it will print 1 asterisk here. Now it will go back here. It will increment by 1. Okay. Increment by 1. So what does this do? Increment by 1 and output and another asterisk. Why? true equals to true, right? The condition is true, so it will output another asterisk. Then it will go back to this. It will go back to this printf and then create a new line. It goes back. It escapes this for loop, this block, and then goes to this for loop again. I plus plus. I plus plus is then I is equal to 3 currently. Now this condition is true because 3 is equal to 3. Then it goes to the second for loop or the nested for loop. Now j is equal to 2. Sorry, j is equal to 1. It will replace this value with 1. Here is the statement true. Yes, because 1 is less than 3. So it will repeat. Then it will put j plus plus, which means j is equal to 2. The condition is still true. Then it will give another asterisk. Then plus plus means this is equal to 3. Give another asterisk. Okay. Now it will increment again. J is equal to 4. And it will check, is this true? Now, no, it's not true, right? So it will escape this. Actually, it will print another line. It will create another line. But even though it goes to the other line, nothing will output. And then it will exit this for. Okay. Is there anything you don't understand in that? So what is the algorithm? We start with the main method. Then we create two variables. Well, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now we created the variables. Then we have I is equal to 1. Now in the Eva, the flow chart in lab 1, when we were teaching you about flow charts, do you remember about the decision box? Basically, this diamond shape, right? This is for conditions. If a condition is true, it will have this outcome. If it is false, it will have this outcome. Understood? Now, currently, Okay. Currently, we are here. We create the variables, then we have I is equal to 1. So we set the value to 1. Okay. Then we go to see if this is true. This condition is true. So we set j equals to 1. As in the for loop, we set the value j is equal to 1 here, right? Can you see this? Right? We said j is equal to 1. Now currently j is equal to 1. We check whether the condition is true. Initially the condition is true. So we print it once, this one. Okay. Then we increment. Go back to the condition. It is false. So we print this. Then after printing this, we go here to the I++. Okay. So what's happening here? This is the main loop. Okay. This is the main loop. Can you see this going back and going back to the start of itself, right? It attaches back to its own, to itself, right? So it will come to this point here, 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 and then go back to right. Or here, if this value is true, it will keep on running here, this loop, until this loop is true. Got it? So it will run this loop until it's at this point. If this is true, it will keep on running this loop until it's true. Okay. Then when it's false, it will escape from this and then go back here until it's true again, until it's false again. Then escape. Let's say this is false now. It will escape. Right? This will end the program. Is there anyone who didn't understand? If you want, you can take a picture of this chart. Okay. Now, moving on. We are going towards strings now. Okay. Now, what is a string? Can anyone explain what a string is? Quickly explain. Anyone?
Set of characters.
A set of characters. Very good. So, where do you use strings? Can anyone tell me where you use strings? For example, let's say you want to get a person's name. Okay. You do it like this. Now, what does this do? Here we declare a char array. So a string is actually a char array, right? Then we can get this value. So we can set the name for this. Sorry. We can set the value for this name char array. So this is a char array with 20 spaces. We can set this value through the scanf. So do you remember the format descriptors? So %d, %f, %d is for Answer is for students. Percentage D is for
Integers.
integers. Percentage F,
Float.
okay. Percentage C,
Char.
char. Okay, so percentage C is char, but if you're using an array of chars, which is a string, okay, we call it a string. Then we use percentage S. Now, when we have percentage S, can you remember if we had just a char, you would enter just one value, but here we can have a full-on name. Right? So what does this do? This scanf, when we put percentage S and the name, so we don't need and here. There's a reason for putting and for the other call it, variables, but because this is an array, you don't need and. Okay, you can't do this with other arrays. So integer arrays won't work like this. This is only for char arrays. So strings. You can use fgets also. Yes. You can use fgets or gets. So basically, how you use that is kind of like this. Gets. You can do this also. Understood? So both scanf and gets work, right? For scanf, you have to have the format descriptor here. For gets, you don't need that. You just need the variable array, the array's name, the char array's name. Okay. Anyone who didn't understand? Okay. Now, give me the code to input values from the user. Input a string from the user and get the frequency of the you did if statements before, right? Use if statements, for loops, and arrays together to get the repetition. How many? So let's say get the user's input and output the frequency of character. So you have to have two inputs here. Get a certain input from the user. Okay. And also ask the user to input a character. Once the user inputs the character, it will check the frequency of the character. So what does this mean? It will check how many times this character has been repeated. Okay. So for example, if I give the input as declare and give the character as E, then it will give me an output of 2. Okay. Quickly give me this code. Send it through chat, please. Students, please hurry up. We don't have enough time. Okay, any students who have finished this? Raise your hand. Okay, students, some of you have answered. Okay. Okay. Yes, Mother has answered correctly. But you don't need to use fgets. So fgets you have to specify the size, right? But for gets you don't even have to specify the size of the. So it's much simpler, I think, in my opinion. So here we are creating a string with 1,000 characters, or you can have any amount of characters you want, right? Yeah, I'm just using 1,000 characters. And then we are creating a variable called C to check if this will check if the this string this will be the character holding the character that we're going to check the frequency of. Okay. Then we have in I and F. I is to for the repetition in the for loop. F is for the frequency. So we get the string and the character. Then inside the for loop, we iterate through the string until we get /0. So what does /0 mean in a string? Now, usually students, let's say we enter this as a string. The thing is, it's not actually saving the string like this. It's actually saving it as /0. This is how we know that we reach the end of the string. Okay. So what are we doing here? We are running the for loop, executing the for loop. So we are incrementing I by 1 until we are incrementing I by 1 and running this if statement until we find this. So the value in this is not equal to /0. Okay. So we run it all of this until it is not equal to /0. So once it comes to this end, it will be equal to /0 and this statement will be false. Okay. Do you understand? Yes, /0 is a termination character. Just it's sort of like /n. /n sends it to the next line, but /0 determines the end of the string. Okay. Now, then here we are checking if the character that we have input before is equal to the current character that we have selected. Then if it is true, we have F++, which will increase the frequency. Are there any questions with this? At home, write a program to find the number of spaces in the entered characters also. Okay. So now here we are getting the specific character. Now at home, do this, like find the frequency of spaces that of a string that I have input. Okay. Now okay, so now we'll be using how to manipulate a string. You guys remember stdio.h, right? What is this called? Somebody answer. What is this stdio.h? Sorry.
Standard input output.
Okay. Standard input output. It's a header file, right? This actually contains the printf, the scanf, those stuff, right? So without this stdio.h, it won't work. Now we are introducing you to a new header file called string.h, right? String.h. String.h is to manipulate a string, basically. So previously we taught you how to create a string and enter values to a string. Now we are teaching you how to manipulate a string. So I'll teach you with the code in the example. It's actually good code. Here, so up to this point, you can understand. So up to this point, right? Anyone who doesn't understand up to this point? No, right? Okay. I will take that as a yes. Take that as everyone understands up to this point. So strcpy. What do you think this means? String copy, right? So what are we doing here? We are copying everything that is in full name. So f name, sorry, f name as a first name to full name, right? We are copying everything here to this full name using string copy. So what does strcat mean? Does anyone know what? Yes, concatenation. So we are concatenating. Concatenate means to add a value in string. So basically, let's say I have and I have these two strings. If I want to concatenate this, I'll get test run. Okay. Now there's no space here, right? For that, I have to concatenate a space, right? Then only I will get a space here. That's what we are doing here. We are concatenating a space to full name. Then we are concatenating the space, the last name to full name. So here, when we run this, we can enter one Pereira and then sorry. Full name is one space Pereira. Right? Is there anything wrong with it? Is there anything you don't understand? Guys, please respond.
No, sir.
Okay. Now, sorry, my PC is too slow. Yeah. Now we will be going on towards functions. Any of you who know, any of you, do you know, sorry, lab test 2 scope. Okay, yeah, I'll explain the lab test 2 scope. So basically what we have done until now, so strings, and the one I'm going to do next is functions. And I'll teach you a little bit of structures, even though it is not on the structures are not on the lab sheet, but in the quiz, I think user has asked questions about structures. Okay, so please bear with me. I will be going for a little extra, but this is for your benefit. Okay. Uh, yeah, moment, students. So, is there anyone who knows what function is? Anyone in chat or a behavior? Okay, you can call it that, but just saying it as a behavior is kind of hard to understand, right? So you can think of it as a machine that sort of takes an input, does a certain process, and gives out an output. Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. A bunch of instructions that are bundled together. But it also can take inputs and give outputs. Okay. Now, what does this mean? This means we can put code that sort of like was separate before, that we use all the time together, right? So hold on, I'll get the code from the in the yeah. So this is how you write a now I think you can understand a little better. Okay, yeah. Now, what does this do? So this is how we show actually write a function. Okay, this is how we write a function. So in a function, we write the data type and the method signature. And then within brackets, we have the code, right? This is the most basic format. Okay. Now this method signature that we have put here is actually two different paths. So what are the two different paths? The function name and these are called the parameters. So you guys have used functions before quite a lot without knowing it. Where have you used functions? You haven't coded a function, but you have called a function. Okay. So the process of calling a function is actually when you call a function, it executes whatever is inside this code block that you have specified, right? But you have done it before for printf, for scanf, those are all functions, right? And you're sending in an input. The only thing is you're not getting a specific output. Okay. Now, in this scenario, you're getting an input and an output for the function. Where do you see this now? So here, we usually, when we create a function in C, we have to show the method signature up here, right? So we have to show a basic structure of the function up here. Then down here is where we specify what the function does. This specifies the what the structure of the function is. So this will be the same as this. Okay. It will be the same as this part. This will be the same. If it is different, it will give an error. Okay. Then you can have whatever you want within this code block. Okay. Here we have, since it's square, we have the code to square two values. The square the value that is entered. Okay. So now, as you can see here, this parameter that I mentioned before is actually an input. And this return, the return statement is an output. Okay. This is the output type. In here we have put integer. This is the output type. Here, if it's a float, we have put output a float. You get what I mean, right? So now, how does this run? How does this run? How does this execute? First, we'll start at the main function. Okay. Then we'll create a integer called n. So for n, we'll start from n equals 1 and repeat until 10. Okay. So initially n is equal to n is equal to 1. Okay. Then we'll come here, square n. So what is the value of n? Here it is 1. Right? So it's sending this value here to this function. Okay. From here, It will go to this statement, and what is 1 times 1? 1. So it will return the value 1 here. Okay. So the output will be 1. It will print the value 1. Okay. Understood? Is there a problem? Now it will change this value to 2. Okay. That means it will change the value to 2. That means it will go through the same cycle. Go here. It will send the value of 2 to this function through this point into the next statement. In the next statement, it's a return statement where it's the calculation that's done is 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Then it will return the value. It will go along this path, and here it will replace this statement. So what's happening here? It will print 2. Sorry, 4. Right? Are there any problems here? Is there any problem here? Can you understand? Is there anyone who didn't understand? Please raise your hand if you didn't understand, or tell me.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Don't you need to declare y like in?
You mean in the main method?
Yes, sir.
So you see this part, this thing here. This is sort of acting as a declaration. But the thing is, now in the main method, if at any point in time, if I put y equals 10, this will give me an error. Why? Why is it giving me an error here but not here? Because we have said, right? Here we have said in the square function, we have a parameter called y with the int data type, right? So no matter what we are inputting in, so this n value will actually be set to the variable called y. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so since we've initialized it here, inside this point, we can run it anywhere. Okay? Inside this function. Since we have initialized it, this is sort of an initialization. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Since we have it in the parameters, we can use it in here. But if we have it anywhere inside the main method, it won't work. It will give an error. Any more questions? Any more questions? What will happen if we don't write line 2 in the code? Line 2. So that will also give an error. So there is a way to actually write it without again, without writing that code, we can actually create what is called a header file. Okay, but even in the .h file that we create, which is a header file, we still have to have this header, right? In that file, we have to have this header. It can work without this in this specific code, so main.c, but we would have to create another main.h, which will have this header. Understood? Are there any questions? The reason for adding void. Okay, good question. Good question. So now here we have used int, right? We have used int. Now, so far, what do you think int and float does? It basically accepts a input in a specific format, right? But if we use void, or you don't actually have to use void, you can leave this blank. So we can, this is also a valid function. Okay, but then you can't use this because this will give an error. This will give an error. So let's say, for example, we have a printf. This will also give an error. So for now, we'll have it as just blank, and then we can have whatever you want here, right? So every time this runs, it will print a. Yeah. So here we can have it like this or as void. Void basically means that there is no data type going in or out depending on where you put it. So if we put void here, it means that we don't have a return type. If we put it here, that means there is no return type. We don't need this return state. Okay, that means there's nothing going out. If we put void here, that means there's nothing coming in, as in this will be empty. Okay. Any more questions? Any more questions? Please ask if you have any questions, students. Okay. I have put the attendance form. Please enter your student name and student ID. Okay. Sorry, I think I sent it to this. I sent the form. I sent the form in your in the chat. Please mark your attendance. Okay. Now. That's it for yeah. Oh, sorry. Wait, hold on. I think you need permissions for that. Wait, no. There are students who have answered, like responded to it. You don't need permissions.
Excuse me, sir. Student ID mean our S number?
Yes, your S number.
Okay, sir.
Please don't enter your registration number. Please enter your S number. Okay. I'll give you 5 minutes for you to rest and also enter your you know, sorry. I mean, it's not compulsory to attend, but the thing is, if you attend, it's helpful to you, right? And you don't need to attend online. You can please mute your mic, background noise, whoever that is. Okay, students. I also have to talk to you about the structures. Okay, so please hurry up. Okay, I'll be starting now. In structures, what do you think a structure does? Does anyone know? Okay. Active availability center. I'm not sure about that. It's sort of a blueprint. Okay. So it allows you to create. So hold on. Some students are asking for permissions. Hold on. I have a lot of permissions, so I don't know. Like permissions have been allowed. Students, you can like obviously you are not added as an editor. Just enter the value and you can, I think. I'll resend the link. Students, you don't need a permission. No, you have to mark through this. I mean, there are 54 responses, so why can't you enter your, why can't you fill it? Is there a problem with your PC or something? If there is, like you can enter it through your phone also.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Since we attended the online session, still we can join for the on-site one too.
Yes. I think Niels has added a sort of a, yeah, it's actually, okay, hold on.
Excuse me, sir. Are there any on-site lab sessions at Candy Regional Center?
Of that, I'm not really sure right now. So I think you will have to ask Niels.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
No problem. Yes, you can participate for online and on-site labs. But I think Niels has sent you like a form that you have to fill up for that. And you can only attend if you have enough space in the lab. Uh, no, hold on. You still can't mark attendance. But why can 63 people mark attendance and you can't? Students, please mark it with your OUSL account. Yeah. Mark it with your university account. Yes, the student ID means student number. Yes, so you don't get permission if you don't sign in with your university email. Please sign in with your university email and then mark the attendance sheet. Okay. Okay. We don't have much time, students. We'll move on to structures. So you remember using ints, chars, floats, strings, all of these data types, right? So structures are a way of creating your own data types, kind of like a blueprint actually, a blueprint of a data type, right? So, example, you can create a data type called person, which has multiple variables inside. So a variable for name, age, and height, right? This way, you can store the person's name, their age, their height, and all of their personal information, right? Then to access this data type, what we have to use is this line right here. Okay. So when we use this sign, we are actually creating a variable called person1, right? Each person1 has a name, age, and height. So if we have person1 and person2, both of these data types will have their own name, age, and height, right? So person one's name is not the same as person two's, right? So we can create two different profiles if you want. Okay. So for example, we can have something like this. So here we use struct person. So person as in name here. So this is the data type we have given using structures, the structure that we have created, and we are creating it with the name person1. Okay. So to access it, we put person1 dot name. That means inside person1 we have, inside this we have a name, age, and height. Right? So when we do this, we are setting the value John equals to for the name, right? But only to this person1 variable, right? Here we are setting age to 25. Here we are setting the height to 1.75, right? Do you understand? Students, hurry up. Do you understand? Please respond. Are there any questions with structures? Huh? It's not that hard, right? Hello? Please open with the OUSL account, with your OUSL email. Students who have this message saying you need permission, please open the Google form with your OUSL email, not a separate email, your OUSL email. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Hold on. Okay. Now, does anyone have any questions in what they have asked for up until now? Any questions? Any questions, students? No. Okay. Awesome. So you also have to learn a little bit of Octave. Okay, Octave is a mathematical software system to solve like complex mathematical problems. Okay, it's commonly used by engineers and scientists. Now, for now, we'll be using the online Octave, online Octave website, which is octaveonline.net. Okay. Here, for example, in this command prompt here, they have given, you can give 2 plus 2, and this will give you the answer 4. ANS equals 4. You can click here. This will give you also answer equals 4, right? You can have also you can create variables. A equals 2, 2. These are declarations. B equals to 3. Then you can have calculations based on the variables. Okay. Also, you can create something called vectors. Now, what is a vector? Sort of like an array for numbers, right? The difference is you can do calculations with that too. Okay. So, what does this mean? This is a vector with 3 columns. Yeah. So, 1 is 1 column, 2 is the second column, 3 is the third column. Okay. Now, here at this point, I can just click A, and it will always give me this vector, right? Now, let's say I want to create a 3-dimensional vector. What's a 3-dimensional vector? Sorry, 2-dimensional vector. So that means I want to have some values at the bottom also, right? So what it means is basically this. Hold on. We can create a 2-dimensional vector like this. A equals this. Then you separate the vectors with semicolon, right? Okay, so this gives you a 2-dimensional vector, or basically a vector with more than 1 row. Okay. Now you can have also like A equals to 2. Now we can have algebraic expressions also. S equals A plus. Here it directly outputs S equals 5, or we can say EISP, which is display, then S. Okay. Then for inputs, we can have A equals input. So this will have you enter the value. So hold on. This will accept the input and set it as the value for A, right? So what does this mean? If I have this, changes to B. Also, there is something called an if statement, okay? We have if equals B, then in this you don't have the braces, so like you don't use curly brackets, right? So what does this mean? Since you don't use curly brackets, you have to use indentations, right? What do you mean an indentation? A space, a tab space. But in the console, you can't use tab space. So you use spaces. So when you use tab space, you get this thing. That's not what you want. Okay, so you can enter something like equals hold on. Yeah, hold on. I think this should go to upload. Yeah, so you have to create a file for this. You can't use it through the console for the if statement. But this is how you usually do it. So you have a statement, then you put a tab space, and then you have whatever you want now. So if it is equal, it will have it will give A equals B, right? Okay. That's it. Any questions, students? I think Neil sir might upload this recording. Any other questions? So, as far as I know, you have to attend the on-site lecture to do the lab test. Please, if you are unable to mark the attendance, please log in with your OUSL email. So you have a OUSL email, log in with that, then you will be allowed to mark your attendance. Okay.